Welcome to another deep dive. Today we are exploring miracles. Are they just stories of the past, or could they still be happening today? We've got some pretty wild stories and evidence to dig into, both from the Bible and, from modern experiences.
That's right.
What do you think? Have you ever wondered if God still performs miracles today? I mean, was that even possible?
Well, it's a question that's fascinated people for centuries. I mean, it has.
Yeah.
And our sources, define miracles as those incredible events
Right.
that seem to, defy the laws of nature, go beyond, scientific explanation.
It's like when you hear a story and you're like, no way, that's impossible.
Mhm.
But then you're like, wait, what if the impossible is actually possible?
Yeah, and as humans, we have that natural instinct to try to find a logical explanation for things. But
Yeah.
sometimes we got to admit that some things just can't be explained away, by science or reason.
Totally. Like the book of Genesis.
Yeah.
The creation of the world. The ultimate miracle. Something so vast and complex that it just, has to point to a power beyond, what we can understand.
Absolutely. I mean, the sheer scale of creation,
Okay.
from, galaxies to the tiniest living organism,
Wow.
truly mind-boggling. And then you have stories like the parting of the Red Sea. In Exodus,
Wow, yeah.
God's dramatic intervention to save the Israelites and all these events in the Old Testament really reveal God's just incredible power. And
Yeah.
it really served as this catalyst for worship and awe.
It makes you wonder, imagine witnessing that. Would you even question if it was real or not? I mean,
It would probably challenge your understanding of reality, for sure.
right.
But the point is that these events, they served a purpose. They revealed God's power and prompted people to worship. But the miracles didn't end with the Old Testament.
Exactly.
They kept going.
Yeah, the New Testament is just jam-packed with stories about Jesus performing miracles. I mean, starting with the miracle of his birth.
That's right. Jesus' birth, his ability to heal the sick, raise the dead, even control the weather. I mean, all of it.
Yeah.
It really demonstrated his connection to this power that was beyond, the human realm.
That's true.
And our sources highlight that these miracles weren't just for show.
Right.
They validated his authority and his power, which came directly from God.
So this brings us to the big question.
Yeah.
Do miracles still happen today? Or are they confined to, the pages of the Bible?
Well, that's the crux of our deep dive today, isn't it?
Yeah.
A lot of people like to relegate miracles to ancient history,
Right.
but our sources suggest otherwise. I mean, if we believe in an unchanging God,
Right.
Malachi 3:6 reminds us of that,
Yeah.
then why would God stop performing miracles?
It is fascinating to me that even, in this modern world where science and technology dominate our lives,
Right.
there are still people who claim to have experienced things that they can only describe as miracles.
Oh, yeah.
It makes you wonder.
For sure. And our sources shared an example of this, the story of the man who was miraculously healed after members of the Apostolic Faith Church prayed for him.
Oh,
And it's a powerful reminder that even when, medical science reaches its limits, there might be something more at play.
it's not just about physical healing, though, is it? Sometimes the most profound miracles are the ones that transform, our inner selves.
That's so true. Think about the woman who touched Jesus's garment and found both physical and spiritual healing.
Right.
Her story reminds us that miracles can touch every aspect of our being.
It makes you wonder if we're missing out on seeing God's work in our own lives because we're too busy looking for the big, spectacular miracles. That could be.
Perhaps the greatest miracle anyone can experience is that transformation of the heart.
Yeah.
That moment of, spiritual awakening when we truly surrender to God's love and grace. That's something that can happen to anyone, anywhere, at any time.
That reminds me of a time when...
Makes you think about your own experiences, doesn't it? I'm curious, have you ever felt like you witnessed something that defied explanation? Something that, nudged you towards, believing in the possibility of miracles?
Yeah, there definitely been times when I've seen things happen or, circumstances just fall into place that make me wonder if there's more to life than, what we can see and explain.
Right.
It's like those moments when you're facing a really difficult situation and suddenly a door opens, a solution appears, almost out of thin air. Makes you wonder if it was just coincidence or something more.
Yeah.
Those unexpected turns of events can certainly, make us pause and reconsider our perspectives. It's like there's this higher power orchestrating things behind the scenes,
Right.
gently guiding us toward a better outcome.
Our sources make a point of emphasizing that the greatest miracle of all is the transformation of the heart. What do they mean by that?
They're talking about the profound shift that occurs when someone experiences a genuine spiritual awakening, that deep connection with the divine.
It's the moment when faith takes root and, begins to blossom, bringing with it a sense of peace, purpose, and an understanding of God's love.
So it's not just about outward changes, but like an inward transformation that impacts how we see ourselves in the world around us.
Exactly. It's a change that goes beyond simply believing in God. It's about surrendering to his will, embracing his grace, and allowing his love to just permeate every aspect of our lives. It's a process of becoming more like Christ, letting go of those old patterns,
Right.
and embracing a new way of being.
This makes me think about the woman who touched Jesus's garment. She wasn't just seeking physical healing, but also that deeper connection
Yeah.
with a power that could, transform her life. It sounds like she experienced that miracle of the heart.
Her story really highlights the interconnectedness of our physical, emotional, and spiritual well-being. I mean, when one aspect is out of balance, it affects the whole. And the miracle of a changed heart brings that sense of wholeness, a recognition that we are loved and cherished by God, regardless of our flaws or, imperfections.
That sounds like a powerful and life-altering experience, but how does one actually experience this transformation of the heart? Is it something that just happens, or is there something we can do to, invite it into our lives?
It's a process that begins with an openness to God's presence in our lives.
Okay.
A willingness to acknowledge our need for something greater than ourselves.
Yeah.
It's about seeking a relationship with God through prayer, reading scripture, engaging in spiritual practices that nurture that connection with the divine.
So it's not about passively waiting for a miracle to happen, but actively seeking that deeper relationship with God.
Precisely. It's about taking steps to cultivate our faith, to create space in our lives for God to work, and to trust that he will meet us where we are. The miracle of a changed heart often unfolds gradually as we surrender more fully to God's love and allow it to transform us from the inside out.
It sounds like there's like a beautiful interplay between our, human efforts to connect with God and his grace working in our lives.
There certainly is. I mean, our desire to connect with God is itself a gift from him.
Right.
It's a spark of his divine love already at work within us. And as we nurture that spark, it grows into this flame that can illuminate our lives
Wow.
and guide us on our spiritual journey.
So how does this idea of a changed heart tie back into, the concept of miracles?
Yeah.
Are they somehow connected?
Well, the transformation of the heart is, in essence, the most profound miracle we can experience. It's the starting point for all other miracles in our lives.
Okay.
When our hearts are aligned with God's will, we become more receptive to his guidance,
Right.
more sensitive to his presence, and more open to the miraculous working in and through us.
So it's not just about God performing miracles for us, but God working through us to, bring about transformation
Right.
in our lives and in the world around us.
That's a beautiful way to put it. The miracle of a changed heart empowers us to be instruments of God's love and grace, to extend his healing touch to others, and to participate in the unfolding of his divine plan.
Sounds like this kind of transformation could have like a ripple effect,
Yeah.
spreading outwards and impacting not just, our own lives, but the lives of those around us.
Imagine a world where people are guided by love, compassion, and a deep connection with the divine. What a different world it would be.
Right.
The miracle of a changed heart has the power to heal divisions,
Yeah.
mend broken relationships, and inspire acts of kindness and generosity that can truly transform our communities and our world.
This all makes me think about something you mentioned earlier, the idea that we might be missing out on seeing God's work in our lives
Yeah.
because we're too focused on the big, spectacular miracle.
Yeah. It's easy to become fixated on those dramatic displays of power,
Right.
but often the most meaningful miracles are the subtle, everyday occurrences that reveal God's love and care for us. It could be a moment of unexpected joy,
Yeah.
a feeling of peace amidst, chaos,
Yep.
or a serendipitous encounter that changes the course of our lives.
So how do we become more attuned to these subtle miracles? Is it about shifting our perspective or changing how we approach life?
Well, cultivating an attitude of gratitude is essential.
Right.
When we take time each day to acknowledge the blessings in our lives, both big and small,
Yeah.
we become more aware of God's presence and his constant care for us. It's also about developing a spirit of wonder and awe, looking at the world through the eyes of a child who sees everything as new and exciting.
So instead of getting bogged down by, the routines of daily life,
Yeah.
we can choose to see each day as a fresh opportunity to experience God's love and grace in new and unexpected ways.
Absolutely. Every sunrise,
Mm.
every interaction, every breath we take is a gift from God,
Yeah.
a reminder of his faithfulness and his unwavering love. When we approach life with this perspective, we open ourselves to the possibility of miracles happening all around us, even in the most ordinary moments.
It sounds like choosing to believe in the possibility of miracles can actually change how we experience life, making us more aware of God's presence and more receptive to his work in our lives.
Belief itself is a powerful force. When we choose to believe in the goodness of God,
Yeah.
in his power to heal and transform, we create space for those miracles to manifest in our lives.
Okay.
Faith is like a seed that we plant in the fertile ground of our hearts.
Right.
And as we nurture it with prayer, scripture, and acts of love, it grows into this mighty tree that can withstand any storm.
That's a beautiful analogy. It suggests that our faith is not a static thing,
Right.
but like a living, growing entity
Right.
that requires our attention and care.
Exactly. Our faith journey is a lifelong process of, learning,
Just
growing,
right.
and deepening our relationship with God.
Yeah.
And along the way, we'll undoubtedly encounter challenges, doubts, and even moments of despair. But it's in those difficult times that our faith is tested and refined,
Right?
becoming stronger and more resilient.
So even when we're struggling, even when we can't see the miracles happening around us, we can still choose to trust in God's goodness and his plan for our lives.
Absolutely. Our faith is not dependent on our circumstances or our feelings.
Okay.
It's a deep-seated trust in God's love and his faithfulness, even when we can't see or understand his ways.
It sounds like this kind of faith requires a lot of courage, a willingness to embrace uncertainty, and to trust in something we can't always see or explain.
It does, but the rewards are immeasurable. When we choose to live by faith, we tap into a source of strength, peace, and hope that transcends our human understanding.
Right.
We become anchored to something greater than ourselves, and we find the courage to face whatever challenges life throws our way.
This deep dive has been incredibly thought-provoking. It's made me realize that miracles aren't just about, the extraordinary events we read about in the Bible.
Right.
They're happening all around us in subtle and profound ways if we just open our eyes to see them.
And perhaps the greatest miracle of all, the one that has the power to transform not just our own lives,
Right.
but the world around us, is the miracle of a changed heart.
It sounds like experiencing that miracle requires a willingness to surrender to God's love, to nurture our faith, and to believe in the impossible.
And when we do, we open ourselves to a life filled with wonder, purpose, and a deep sense of connection to the divine.
This has been a truly fascinating exploration. What other insights do our sources offer about the role of miracles in our lives today? It seems like our sources are saying that miracles aren't just something that God does for us,
Right.
but also something he does through us. What exactly do they mean by that?
Well, they're highlighting this idea that we can be like active participants
Okay.
in the miraculous. We're not just passively waiting for God to intervene,
Right.
but we're called to partner with God,
Yeah.
to be his hands and feet in the world.
So are you saying that we can actually play a role in bringing about miraculous change in our own lives and the lives of others?
Absolutely. I mean, every act of kindness, compassion, and love is a tiny miracle in itself. When we choose to forgive someone who has hurt us,
Right.
when we reach out to someone in need, when we stand up for what's right, even when it's difficult, we're tapping into a power that's greater than ourselves.
That makes me think about the story of the Good Samaritan.
Right.
He saw this man in need, and instead of walking by, he stopped to help.
Yeah.
Wasn't that a kind of miracle? Like a moment of compassion that transcended, social barriers and religious differences?
Absolutely. It was a powerful example of how God can work through ordinary people
Right.
to bring about extraordinary change.
Yeah.
The Samaritan didn't have, any special powers or abilities, but he had a heart that was full of love and compassion, and that made all the difference.
So miracles don't always have to be these, big supernatural events.
Right.
Maybe it's about recognizing the everyday miracles that happen all around us,
I think so.
and small acts of kindness
Yeah.
and love that, make the world a better place.
Exactly. Sometimes the most profound miracles are the ones that go unnoticed. The quiet moments of grace that touch our lives in unexpected ways.
Yeah.
It could be a simple phone call from a friend who knew we needed to hear a kind word.
Right.
A stranger's smile that brightens our day.
Yeah.
A moment of unexpected beauty that fills us with awe and wonder.
That makes me think about all the times I've been struggling with something, and then like totally out of the blue, I'll get a message or some kind of sign that just seems perfectly timed to give me hope or encouragement.
Right.
It's as though God is like whispering,
Yeah.
I'm here with you, even in the midst of this.
Those moments of synchronicity, those seemingly coincidental events that carry a deeper meaning, can be such powerful reminders
Yeah.
of God's presence in our life. It's as though he's orchestrating events behind the scenes, weaving together this tapestry of love and grace that unfolds over time.
So how do we become more attuned to these everyday miracles? How do we cultivate that sense of wonder and awe in a world that can often, feel mundane and predictable?
Well, it starts with a shift in perspective.
Okay.
Instead of focusing on what's wrong with the world, we can choose to focus on what's right, on the beauty and goodness that surround us.
Right.
It's about practicing gratitude,
Mm.
taking time each day to appreciate the simple things and acknowledging the blessings in our lives, both big and small.
And maybe being more present in the moment,
Yeah.
paying attention to the details and savoring the, simple joys that life has to offer.
Absolutely. When we slow down and really pay attention, we start to notice things we might have missed before.
Mm.
The way the sunlight filters through the leaves, the sound of laughter, the warmth of a hug. These are all tiny miracles that can fill us with joy and gratitude.
Well, this deep dive today has been, an incredible journey of exploration.
Yes.
We talked about the miracles of the Bible, the possibility of miracles happening today, and the transformative power of a changed heart. What would you say is like the one key takeaway that you hope our listener will remember from this conversation?
Well, I hope our listener will walk away with a renewed sense of wonder and a belief in the possibility of the miraculous. I mean, miracles are not just stories from the past. They're happening all around us in ways both big and small.
Yeah.
And perhaps the greatest miracle of all is that miracle that can happen within each of us.
Right.
The transformation of the heart that opens us up to a life of love, joy, and purpose.
That's beautiful. Thank you for guiding us on this fascinating deep dive today.
It's been my pleasure.
It's been a privilege to, explore these ideas with you.
Likewise.
And to our listener, we encourage you to keep an open mind, to cultivate that sense of wonder, and to believe in the power of miracles to transform your life and the world around you.